ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا.
Saudi Arabia, the birthplace of Islam, home to its holiest sites, the world's biggest supplier of oil, and to some US officials, the epicenter of Islamic terror.
آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه.
The Saudi government denies that charge, but the growth of Saudi extremism affects us all, and as we'll see, is now thought to have links to the Bali bombing.
أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم.
The tough industrial town of Khamis Mushayat in Saudi Arabia's rugged and conservative southwest. It has little to offer, yet it's now on the map of international terror. It was here, in the town's main mosque, that 5 of the September 11 hijackers were recruited by the extremism of its preacher, Sheikh Ahmed al-Hawashi. We are told he's out of town, but confirmed that despite his alleged links to terror, he still preaches here.
What do you think of Sheikh Hawashi?
Good, very good.
Good man.
Good man.
The Sheikh's links to September 11 are simply denied.
No. Not true.
لا سياسة ما في خليها سياسة.
No speak?
But for many here, politics is religion, and if you're not a Muslim, you're not welcome.
ما سوى شيء يا اخي. انتم مسلمين انتم يا الربع. تكلموا يا اخي، الهنود بنقال السعوديين تكلموا يا اخي. انت بس تجيب لي كفار هنا. بس تجيب لي هذا كامل هذا وش لا انت عليك تجيب. مو عيب علي. تعلمين العيب فين؟
Saudi Arabia is dominated by men like these. They propagate a puritanical form of Islam known as Wahhabism. It controls much of the education system and social life, at times calling for jihad against a disbelieving West.
Okay. Why are they angry? What's the problem, sir?
Criticising them has sparked death threats, but one who dares to is Abha journalist Saad Aswailim.
Through mixing ideology with politics, they push the younger people towards the extreme form of Islam. I believe they force politics into religion. They dress politics as religion, and they present political programs, political ideologies as the essence of religion.
Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. There are no elections here. Its centre of power, Crown Prince Abdullah bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. As is his royal obligation, once a week Crown Prince Abdullah receives supplicants seeking direct aid. 100 years ago, his family unified the nation with the backing of strict Wahhabi clerics, and they cut a deal. The royals would run politics and the economy. The clerics could dictate social policy. It's a deal many believe fostered Islamic extremism. Since September 11, the United States has pressed Saudi rulers to curb the most militant mullahs, and in a rare interview, Crown Prince Abdullah says he is. What do you say to some critics outside Saudi Arabia who say that Saudi Arabia is not doing enough to stop the funding and the support for Islamic terrorism around the world?
نقول نحن صادقين فيما نقول، والأموال وما الأموال كلها إذا كان في شيء وقف، مع أنه أول يعني ما عندنا خبر إذا كان في شيء. أما الصحف وما الصحف هذه عارفين أنتم وحنا عارفين من يعني اللي وراها.
But blaming a Jewish American smear campaign is no longer enough. Saudi Arabia's problems start at home. A deeply religious society, Saudi Arabia is struggling with change. Until now largely closed to the outside world, the more contact they have with a decadent West, the more vocal the clerics become.
Women used to be a very significant part of local markets like this one.
Returning to Riyadh from his home in Boston, Saudi writer Sulaiman Al-Hatlan laments what he sees as a growing conservatism, curbing public debate.
It's not only a political censorship that we fear. More important and more dangerous, actually, more alarmingly, is the social and self-censorship, which resulted from focusing on religion all the time. Don't do this because you may upset God.
For many Saudis, pleasing God means defending fellow Muslims, and what they see as biased US policies only increases support for the extremists.
The more the Palestinians are oppressed, and the more the Americans are supporting Israel, the more popular bin Laden and his like becomes. I think the core issue is Palestine. So definitely the trend of fanatism or extremism cannot stop at any point before we really look seriously at the Palestinian issue.
ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به.
2 decades ago, the Saudi royals gave even more power to the clerics to shore up their own political position after Iran's Islamic Revolution. Religion's creeping control and a lack of open debate have fueled a fundamentalist youth.
Bin Laden has become an alternative, whether it is a political alternative, religious alternative, intellectual alternative for hopeless, humiliated young Arabs in Saudi Arabia and beyond.
And it's not just the youth. At Riyadh's ancient camel market, grassroots opinion is swinging further against the West. No fans of Saddam, Saudis feel the looming war in Iraq is just another unwanted American intervention in Muslim affairs.
I think about a government of America. It's coming crazy now.
لا ما نريد الحرب ضد العراق. ما في أحد يريد. العراق ما في أحد يريد. دولة مسلمة ولا يجوز الضغط على المسلمين على غير حق وواجب.
As tension between Arabs and America grows, one man stands out as seeing it from both sides.
And so why the TVs?
I have to watch so many channels simultaneously, whether it's in business or economics or politics or finance.
Prince Al-Walid bin Talal is the world's richest non-American. So rich, in fact, the TV room in his $100 million Riyadh palace is full of wildlife.
This old giraffe here, how was that? How hard was that to shoot?
This was shot and hunted in South Africa.
Prince Al-Walid is the biggest single foreign investor in New York, a major shareholder in Western entertainment, and a generous supporter of Palestinian charities.
When bin Laden undertook this incredible and horrendous terrorist act, many people in the Arab world, let alone Saudi Arabia, were joyful. Were joyful not because they liked the act per se, but they just wanted to give a message to America. And that's what we're trying to tell America. please stop your blind approval of what Ms. Sharon is doing in Palestine, and let the resolutions of the UN 242, 338 be implemented as quickly as possible.
Prince Al-Walid's new $350 million tower stands alone in Riyadh as a symbol of confidence in the country. Few of the oil billions have been reinvested here, and while Saudi Arabia aspires to the spoils of wealth, its society struggles with contradiction. Saudis admire much of what the West has to offer. In fact, many are rich enough to buy what they want of it. But 60% of the population is under 25. A third of them, or 2.5 million people, can't find jobs. And without alternatives, wealth does not preclude extremism.
Unemployment in any country in the world is a breeding ground for social trouble, potentially. No doubt about that. And Saudi Arabia is no different. There's an imbalance here that has to be looked at. And this is another item that we're looking at very seriously.
Riyadh's fanciest shopping mall may look like anything in the West, but beneath the surface run fanatical social controls. Life is patrolled by the feared Mutawa, or morality police, who have the power to jail those not behaving with proper piety.
ولن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. لن يرضوا عنا حتى يفسدوا نساءنا وبناتنا وأخواتنا عبر مواطن الاختلاف. أعداء الإسلام.
Girls and wives are covered, we're told, for their protection. Speaking to strangers, forbidden. To test their views, though, we gained rare access to a private girls' college. Only 3 obtained parental permission to be filmed.
Careful, make sure it's straight, okay?
20-year-old Maha Kalawi and her friends are all studying graphic design, yet differ on the impact of bin Laden.
It's
stood up for the people who are quiet. Angry people.
Muslims?
Yeah.
No,
that's not
really.
where.
No.
No, Muslims don't. This is not a Muslim action.
He's basically saying, he's telling the states, I'm not afraid of you.
Even for these young women, Islam defines their difference with what they see as an aggressive West.
It's like you have to choose sides. You know, the way Bush is acting, it's like you're either with me or against me. The way they are, you know, if you make us choose between our religion, you know, or helping you hurt our people, you know, we're gonna, choose our religion basically, because it's, you stick with your people.
Sticking with your people is what Muslim charity is all about. One of Saudi Arabia's biggest Islamic charities, Al-Haramain, raises $100 million a year. It says builds mosques and helps Muslims around the world. But Al-Haramain is accused of also funding Al-Qaeda. To find out why, you have to talk to investigators in the United States.
Some of these organizations were established for the purpose of financing terrorism. Others have been co-opted at some point along the way, and now are there serving as fronts for terrorist organizations.
2 of Al-Haramain's offices have been closed after the US and Saudi governments named them as fronts for funding Al-Qaeda. Yet Al-Haramain's Riyadh headquarters remains open, its director denying any links with bin Laden.
نحن ضد الإرهاب والعنف، ولذلك لا أتصور أنه أي فرع من فروع المؤسسة يستطيع أن يساعد القاعدة. قد يعني نحن لا نستبعد أن يكون يحصل شيء بغير علمنا، لكن حتى الآن لم يقدم لنا أي دليل.
A former FBI analyst, Matt Levitt, says Al-Haramain has funded Islamic terror in Southeast Asia.
We now know through the confessions of Omar al-Farouk, who is Al-Qaeda's primary liaison to the Jamal Islamiyah in Southeast Asia, that the Jamal Islamiyah was being funded in large part by wealthy Saudis, primarily through the Al-Haramain Islamic Foundation there.
So we've confirmed that Omar al-Farouk visited Al-Haramain in Makassar, but that's all we know.
One or two times they told me. Yeah.
Right. And did he receive money from them?
No, you know, يعني هو كان عاطل عن العمل. هو عربي وعاطل عن العمل في إندونيسيا. فكان إذا وجد أي جهة عربية يحاول يتصل بهم.
The World Assembly of Muslim Youth is another Saudi charity suspected of funding Islamic terror in Asia. Since September 11, the Saudi government says it's imposed tight new controls on Saudi charities to stop their funds reaching terrorists.
So this is where we keep our committees of volunteers.
But the charity's deputy director, Salah Babir, reveals the cash flowing through Muslim charities is beyond government control.
If a Muslim has $1,000 as a zakah and he wants to spend it on, for example, give it to anybody, you have no way. No system can stop that. Not even a government. It's very hard to really stop this.
So there's no new government system of controls?
I would not say that there is a new system. There is no control because, I mean, this is a charitable organization. We are actually working along with the government and along the same lines. We are not simply accepting the fact that we do not want to just live by what the Western media is telling us to do.
To many Saudis, charity can include funding militants in Palestine.
I am not actually saying here that we want to legitimize terrorism or we want to go after killing civilians. But when you have someone seeing his own family being killed, his own house destroyed, then you cannot ask him to just sit down and talk logic.
Well,
but there's new pressure on these links. Working for the families of the victims of September 11, Washington lawyer Allan Gerson is suing Saudi charities, banks and even royal family members for $1 trillion for financing September 11.
In many respects, having money around and allowing that money to go to the wrong sources is like providing a gun.
As well as links to September 11, Gerson has discovered disturbing new claims that Saudi money funded the bombing in Bali.
We have seen evidence of money that went from Saudi sources that went through the medium of various entities in Europe to support terrorist cells there. If you connect the dots between terrorist cells in Europe and terrorist cells in Europe that received financing from individuals and entities in Saudi Arabia, those terrorist cells in Europe definitely had connections with Bali.
There have been several reports, the most recent of which was written at the request and for the United Nations, which document the fact that Saudis have, over the years, agreed to finance certain radical Islamic organizations on the silent condition that their operations and that their recruitment would be abroad and not at home.
No, look, you're referring to the media reports that say Saudi Arabia bribed or Saudi Arabia paid off Bin Laden, Al-Qaeda to be out Saudi Arabia. This is not correct at all. This is just media reports. Completely not correct because Bin Laden's official position years ago was not only to hit America, but also to hit Saudi Arabia. He is anti-Saudi Arabia. He is anti-ruling family. He is anti-presence of America, American troops in the Gulf region. So how could how could someone dare to say that we were financing him and telling him to be outside of our country when he's trying to topple our regime here?
regime's future is of immediate concern. Saudi Arabia's ruling royals unified the nation at the point of the sword, a campaign they come together once a year to celebrate. But today their security depends on US bases, an insult to many Muslims and the main reason bin Laden launched his jihad against the West. War in Iraq, they fear, could further fuel extremism. Many consider Crown Prince Abdullah more progressive than his society, but he's caught in a dilemma. Crack down on extremism and risk a Muslim backlash, don't do enough and upset the West.
Some voices we have in the US administration are really becoming anti-Saudi Arabia, but the pressure that's being addressed right now, the pressure that's being exerted from outside is not helping, because no community would like to change if it's looked upon by its people and its region like it's coming from outside, that's being dictated upon.
The Saudi system produced bin Laden and his suicide fighters, but American policies have given him a popular reason to fight. While neither change, it's likely the money will continue flowing to Islam's extremist cause.